listening to the Esq.Marketing podcast, hosted by Matthew Lauren, president of Esq.Marketing, where he features successful solo and SMB law firms from all over the United States. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hey, I'm Matthew Lauren, president of Esq.Marketing, and you're listening to the Esq.Marketing podcast, where I feature successful solo and SMB law firms from all over the United States. This episode is brought to you by Esq.Marketing. We help law firms generate more clients and cases using search marketing. And speaking of successful lawyers, today I have the pleasure of speaking with Lem Garcia, founder of Lem Garcia Law. Lem received a journalism degree from California State Polytechnic University in Pomona, then worked as a law clerk for several years at a complex civil litigation firm in Pasadena. He earned his law degree from Western State University College of Law in Fullerton, where he received a full scholarship, was a member of the Law Review, and graduated in the top 20% of his class. After law school, Lem worked as an independent consultant at several different law firms. In 2014, he made the decision to venture out on his own and founded his own personal injury practice that has now grown to 3 locations, employing a staff of 15 employees. Lem, welcome to the show. That's quite a resume.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. It's an honor.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So we'll jump right in. Why did you decide to start your own practice in one of the most competitive legal practice areas in the industry?
So I started my office because I was unemployed at the time. I was looking for work. And when I went to law school, I always wanted to have my own business, have my own practice. Before school, I was working for a solo attorney. And, I always wanted to do the same thing. And do things my way. So when I was looking for work, I just said, you know what, this is a good time for me just to go ahead and do it. And when I started, I didn't even know how competitive the space was. Like, I had no idea how many personal injury attorneys there were out there. I didn't know. I mean, I saw the commercials, I saw the billboards, but it didn't really resonate with me just how competitive it really is. And I think if I knew at the time, I really probably wouldn't have started. Like now, if you Google car accident attorney, it's just a long list of attorneys helping people that have been injured. And it's a super competitive space. And I think I was really just blessed by my ignorance to how many personal injury attorneys there are out there. There
are a lot of them. Yeah, there's fierce competition in that specific practice area of law. So that reminds me of a cool quote or saying, and I can't remember where I read this, but it was about Navy SEALs. And at any point during their training, they can quit by going and ringing this bell on the beach. And the ones that do, it's more likely that they'll quit later on because they already know what it feels like. And so it sounds like, yeah, that was a blessing. Like not even knowing how competitive the space was or how high the mountains you had to climb were kind of helped you out a little bit in starting things up.
Yeah, it helped tremendously. I mean, I was always there. I always wanted to help out people. To be clear, when I started, I didn't focus only on personal injury. I hung myself out. I hung a shingle to handle all kinds of cases. I was doing workers' comp, Social Security disability, wills and trusts. I just put a bunch of stuff out there, hopefully that people would come to help out, seek my help. And then the cases that I was getting were mostly personal injury claims. So I said, you know what, how can I best serve people? Just let me focus on this and just really focus on learning this area of law so that I can best serve people and really just build a business that's really helping out a lot of people. And we're doing a great job by just, honing in on that particular area of law.
And Lem, the more that I read about you, I was seeing things about why you wanted to be a different personal injury law firm than what you've seen out in the space. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to build a successful brand strategy? Like, where do you start? Is it internal culture development or processes, or where do you start with that?
Well, where I started with the business is really just looking at what people are doing. I think I just started doing research, law firms, and just really analyzing what firms are doing, what offices are doing, and how can I be different from what everybody else is doing. Because I think really, in a business, you have to stand out. And to stand out, you have to be willing to be different. I think people are, I think the inclination is to say, okay, well, let me see what everybody else is doing. Let me copy that so that I can replicate their success. Well, I think it's important to not just see what they're doing and what works, but also to see how you can be different and stand out to the clients and the public that you're trying to help.
So what were some of the things that you saw that a lot of PI firms were doing that you could do different or better when you did your research?
So I looked at, one thing that I really did was look at different law firms and the Yelp reviews that they were getting, or just the Google reviews that they were getting. And I just made a list of all the things that clients were complaining about, like what were common complaints. So I went, not just in LA, but California and other states. I would just, what are clients complaining about? They were complaining about not being able to talk to the attorney. They were complaining about not enough updates about their case, that they would always have to call the attorney or the law office for an update, just not being transparent. These are the bad things that people were complaining about. I mean, firms do great jobs. But I was looking for how can we improve on what people are already doing really well. So I compiled a list of these things, and I really wanted to hone in on fixing those mistakes so that we can best serve the public. So I think that's something that I really focused to differentiate us from everybody else.
That's really brilliant because it's so simple. I mean, you find out what people really, really need. What are their pain points? Like, obviously everyone wants to be represented and have a good attorney and maybe get, some wrongs righted, but then there's little things too about communication and knowing what's going on. And yeah, that's mining that information. That was a good step. We've done that a lot in our own work too.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's the voice of the people really expressing their concerns and how things can be different and how things can improve. And the information is just out there. And like you said, just mining it and then correcting it so that, we can do a better job than everybody else and give that service to the public.
Yeah. You mentioned, reading reviews and testimonials. Along those lines, how do you leverage successful client relationships? So you have people that had a good experience with you. How do you leverage that in your brand strategy and in your marketing?
So I think just from day one, what's really important for us is to always know that we want to have a happy client at the end so that they're best served, but also at the end of their case, they're happy to refer their family and friends to us. They're happy to leave a review online for us. And then if the unfortunate happens and they get into another accident, they're happy to come back to us, for our help. What we do to leverage any kind of relationship that we have is to, like, if they leave a review online, it's really important to make sure that, you're not scared to share that on social media yourself. Just get their review and then repackage it and put it on all the different platforms that are out there, Instagram, Facebook, Google My Business, just anywhere where you can let the public know that you're helping people out. Just put that back out there. Like, don't be scared to, toot your own horn, because if you're scared to do that, people might not know how much you're helping other people. Like, you have to promote yourself. You have to get the attention and you have to put yourself out there. And because, the public or, clients will do it, but then there has to be that extra push behind it to make sure that people know that you're doing a great job.
Do you think that attorneys are sort of averse to doing that? Like, say they get the reviews, but are they, do they just not think about that, or are they sort of averse to sharing that information in public forums?
I think probably the older, more experienced set of attorneys are not as willing to do that. I think that might be, an old framework that they've used in the past, like, well, you just do good work and then people will know and come to you, which is very true. But then you have to give that an extra boost. Like, people, not only will they refer to you, but then they'll also leave a review, and then you can use that review and let even more people know. Like, it's just putting gasoline on the fire versus if you just help one person and they, hopefully they talk to their friends and family. So, but I think the younger set of attorneys, the ones that are just starting off their office and they're more familiar with social media and entrepreneurship, I think those attorneys are very ready, willing, and able to share their reviews with the world.
I hear you. Lem, during your journey for building the brand that you are running now, were there any missteps that you had that you wish you could have done over?
As far as just in the office, mistakes, I think
as far as building the brand strategy or building, what the firm, the image that the firm is today, is there anything that you did in the past you're like, man, I really wish I would have done that differently?
It's hard to say a mistake. I mean, there are things that I wish I could have done better. I mean, is it a mistake to build a website on your own? With this is what I did. I built a website on my own. I just went on Squarespace and I said, like, I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to figure out SEO. Yeah. I'm going to create a bunch of content. This back in 2014, Google was much different. And I just said, I'm going to put a bunch of content out there and I think that'll work for SEO. Was that a mistake? I mean, it worked. Do I wish I could have hired somebody back then? Absolutely. Right. Yeah. But I didn't have the money. Like I didn't, the money wasn't there. So I wish I probably, would have done a lot better in the beginning if I had someone that, does that for a living, a professional job on the website and then, professional SEO. I think that would have helped out tremendously, but the resources just, they weren't there.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah. What about in like, personnel for your firm or other types of business decisions? Anything there where you're like, I think this would be good advice for somebody starting out on their own firm to avoid?
Yes. So, I mean, I think I still have this problem. Is you have to know when to let somebody go.
Yes. Yes.
And not only you have to know, but you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
There's one thing of knowing, like, this person isn't doing a good job. It's affecting everybody else's work. But then you have to be willing to take that step and say, hey, we don't think it's a fit. We wish you the best of luck. Good luck to you in the future. Yeah. That is something I think, was a mistake in the past, because if you have someone in your office that isn't meeting your expectations or it brings a bad attitude, I mean, those things just from one person, that one person can really become a cancer in the office.
Yes, agree, totally.
And that cancer spreads, right? And then once it spreads, like if you get rid of that one person, like there's still that effect, right? Mm-hmm. With other people that are there. So I think that's a mistake that, I wish I could have corrected before. I just, it's hard.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. They're relying on you and the paycheck to pay for their car, their apartment, whatever situation they're in. They're relying on you, and then you're just going to, let them go, maybe, give them 2 weeks pay. And then it's like, good luck finding a job. It's tough. I mean, that's probably the hardest part. I can't, I wish I could be, I don't know, more cutthroat about that, but it's just, it's not in my nature. It's
that advice is like gold, because I haven't met a business owner yet who is like, oh, it was easy to let them go, or it was easy to just like axe people when I need to. We are an EOS agency, and one of the principles in that is knowing where you have the right people, right seat. So sometimes you have the right person and they're in the wrong seat, or sometimes you have the right person that is in the wrong seat, and then sometimes you just have wrong person, wrong seat. They don't have a place in the organization. And I totally agree. I've seen people struggle with that before and let it go on and on and on, and it is like a cancer. It just It ggets harder, not only because you let it continue for so long, but yeah, it can destroy other parts of the business. So that's really great advice.
Yeah, it reminds me of that movie, with George Clooney. I forgot what it's called, but he gets hired to fire people. And when I watched that movie before, it's like, oh, it's not so hard to, before I was a business owner, I thought it would be easy to fire people. Like, oh, no big deal. But
yeah,
now that I'm here, it's like, oh yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah, it gets really personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, great advice there. How does community outreach play into your law firm brand strategy? I noticed some stuff in your profiles online and on your website about community outreach.
Yeah, I think it comes easy for me, community outreach, and I know how important it is, especially because, my main office is in West Covina, and I've lived in West Covina my entire life. So that's why I open here, is because I already know people here. I know the community. I know just the culture of the city, right? And when people come to me, there's already that familiarity. Like, we're from the same city, the ones that are local, and we're very similar. Like, we never met before, but the fact that we're in the same city, there's just a vibe that we know that we're like one another. And I think it's important to make sure that you reach out to the community around you, because most people want to have a lawyer that is close by to them, and they want to have a lawyer that is like them, like comes from the same place as them, because they can relate.
Yeah.
So we make it a point to reach out to the community. I mean, I already have family and friends here, or people from high school around, their families around, but we make it a point to get out there and really just make sure that the community knows that we're here to help everybody out.
And I'm assuming you've gotten some good response from that, whether it be in media or just personal communication from the community about how they feel.
Oh yeah, tremendously. I go out and people recognize me. They're like, oh, you helped out my friend, or you helped out my family member. Oh, I saw your banner at the high school football field. I saw you run the local 10K. I saw your booth at the 10K. I see your local ads that you run online.
Yeah.
They just keep on seeing my face. They see the logo, and it just with that, it already breeds that familiarity and that trust that people need to the trust that clients need to have before signing on.
Yeah, and you're a pillar of the community, right? Like it ties people together.
Yeah. I mean, you want to say pillar? I mean, that sounds great. Yeah.
So you live and work in Southern California. Tell me, who is going to take it all this year? The Lakers or the Clippers?
I want the Clippers to win. They need one. They need one. The Lakers have plenty. The Clippers, they need one. Come on.
So I bring it up because you were a team photographer for the Clippers.
Yeah, I was the team photographer for the Clippers back in the day. I think 2005. They had a pretty good team. They made the playoffs, second round. But I've been a fan of both teams my whole life, and it's only a problem now because they're both really good.
Yeah. Tell me about that story? Did you were you into photography, or how did you get that gig?
Yeah, no, I was working as a legal assistant in Pasadena for an attorney, and then my passion was photography. Like, I love photography, and I still do. I love taking pictures, and I was doing some side work, event photography, and then I saw this post for photographer for the Clippers, and then I just I sent my resume, sent some photos, and I practically begged them for the job. I told them, like, I love the Clippers, I love photography. These are the two passions of my life coming together, and it'd be the dream job for me. I'll do a great job for you, and whatever you want, whatever you need, I'm there for you. And because of that, they called me in, and they're like, you know what, we love what you had to say. We don't meet many people like you. If you can do the work, your quality is good, you got the job. So I got it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time, great year. But yeah, it was fantastic.
Just for the 1 year you did that for the Clippers?
Yeah, just that 1 year. I mean, they were in a drought for so long. I don't know how many playoff series they've won, but they were in a drought for so long. So that was huge for the team. Like they advanced the second round, and they could have gone to the Western Conference Finals if they weren't. There were like a couple botched plays in that series, but
they should have kept you on board. You're their lucky charm.
Yeah.
You've been listening to Lem Garcia, founder at Lem Garcia Law. Lem, where can people go to learn more about your law firm?
You can visit the website at lemgarcialaw.com. And if you want to talk to me or anybody at the office, you can dial #4law if you're in California and from your cell phone.
Sweet. Thanks for being on the show, Lem. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to the ESQ Marketing Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.